a little over a year after I started my business, we had at the time our biggest month ever. And it was really, quite astounding. And it felt incredible to go from a little over a year earlier having a $50 month total, and then just a little over a year later to have a $50,000 month approximately. It was mind blowing. I was a complete solopreneur, and the next 3 months in a row, it wasn't no revenue, but it was crickets comparatively.
The Business Owner's Journey. I'm Nick Berry, and I've got real business owners telling their real stories, sharing their real lessons and strategies, so you don't have to figure it all out on your own. Daniel Wakefield is a photographer, an entrepreneur, and the founder of Top Tier Headshots. He works with keynote speakers, founders, and executives on building the visual side of their personal brands. What happens when your business takes off and it nearly wrecks you? Daniel thought he'd gotten over the hump when his revenue took off, and just as quickly as it took off, it stopped for a while. Today, he and I unpack what went wrong and how he rebuilt himself and his business. Expect to learn how Daniel went from professional headshots to personal branding for entrepreneurs as his business strategy, what business leadership growth demands once your business starts to get traction, whether recurring revenue is even possible in project-based creative work, his take on the mindset shift needed for a founder to go from producer to leader, the best and the worst ways to price a premium offer, how he built a team without compromising his standards, and much more. Enjoy this episode with Daniel Wakefield.
Well, a lot's changed since the last time we did one of these podcast interviews.
I know.
It's what's happened in the last year that's made such a big difference with you and your business.
How much time do you have? Because there's a lot of changes that have happened. So, I think kind of really just stepping back, really big picture, where Top Tier started versus where it is right now. When I started the business, really my only goal was I wanted to give people the best headshot that they'd ever had. And I set out to do that. I learned from the best. I really, spent time honing in on the craft, and the testimonials that I was getting from people, I think really were an evidence of that they were getting exactly what I was hoping that they would get, that really world-class level headshot, and something that would actually, benefit their career. It wouldn't just be kind of like a stale placeholder. It would be, this is actually opening doors for people. So that was really the goal when I started. And it's really evolved over the last 5 years. And I think really the last year and a half, 2 years in particular, and then accelerating over the last year. I think that as I've moved along in the business, that I've really been zeroing in on the power of personal branding, the power of positioning for my clients. And it didn't just come out of nowhere. It was something that I was working on for myself as I was developing my own personal brand, as I was learning more about that and implementing things and growing my own brand, that I was bringing those same insights and those same things that I was implementing for myself. I was bringing those to my clients and saying, hey, we should try this. This worked really well for me. Let's start thinking about this, or let's go in this direction, or, oh, you're doing this. Let's position you like this. And just really starting to dive into my clients' brands and helping them take that brand to the next level with much more than just a headshot. So we really started going all in on developing other styles of photography that had that same top tier feel, but were for different use cases, different situations. And then also diving deep into the brand strategy and what is it that you're hoping to achieve with these images? Mm-hmm. And then how do we create images that amplify what you're doing? And so it's not just a collection of random images, but it's really a really well-positioned portfolio that no matter, what image you use where, it's going to amplify the message that you're trying to get out there to your audience. So that's really been a shift in the focus of top tier headshots that really, built it on the backbone of this really world-class headshot, but then realizing, wow, there's so much more here to dive into that I love diving into with people and helping people with those things.
Right. Yeah. When you put it like that, it makes sense. you should have a strategy in place in mind to be able to do the world-class headshots or whatever the work is for the client. Do you think that you've always kind of done that? You've always had their brand in mind, and that's why you were able to do your work really well, and now you've just gotten really good at the strategy part of it?
Yeah.
Or did you not think maybe you didn't have it in place at all and kind of learned it and plugged it in?
I think that it's both and to answer to that question. I think that at the very beginning, I was literally just, let me learn the craft. Let me get really, really good at the technical side of things, the coaching side of things, which in itself was a very unique thing for most of my clients had never experienced something like that before. But I think pretty early on, I started to realize different clients are trying to communicate different things. And so maybe for one client, the really warm, friendly, approachable smile is the way they need to go with their headshot as being a subset of their personal brand. Whereas other people were really developing thought leadership, really in more of like a leadership executive role, needed to have a very confident, still warm, but very, very confident, very leadership type image. And so I started to coach people in different directions based on, what they were telling me about their brand and what they're trying to communicate. I would say that it's been happening for a while for most of my business. And it started happening because and I think this is an important lesson for every brand, is I was listening to my clients. And I was listening to what they were looking for. So it wasn't just, hey, come on in and you stand over here and we're just going to shoot this and then there you go. But it was, what are you trying to communicate with your brand? And then listening. And then, okay, how do we create these headshots that actually will help? And so that no matter if it's a post or an article or your picture, you have an aligned brand across everything. So that started happening very early on. So I think it's just kind of been a natural development. The longer I've gone, the deeper that I've gotten with that. And I think it was probably in the last year that I really started to say, you know what, that's something different that I'm doing that perhaps many photographers are not doing, is I'm really diving deep into this brand strategy and, okay, how can we start to make this more intentional as part of the process and not just something that, it might happen organically, it might not, but no, how do we kind of codify this and bake it into what we're doing?
Yeah. So then what effect has that had on Top Tier and on you?
Well, I think that number one, it really helps me to get to know my clients better, because it's not just a surface level, oh, I'm going to take your picture, even though it's not really ever been that. It's gone deeper than that. So as a result, the relationships, I think, have deepened. But I think that it's also the people that are coming in are not just looking for a headshot anymore. Or maybe when they first reach out, that's what they're looking for. But after a conversation, they realize, oh, I need a lot more than that. And so it's...
You think it clicks with them that, like, this is somebody that's different? There's more to offer.
Yeah. So, I mean, that comes out on the discovery call. They reach out inquiring about getting some updated headshots, and I start kind of picking their brain about what their brand is like and about the different things that they're doing in their personal brand. How are they putting themselves out there? Are they speaking? Are they podcasting? Are they writing a book? Are they, all these different things. And by the time we're done the conversation, they realize, oh man, we really need to build more of a portfolio and not just get like a single headshot that we plaster everywhere. And so I would say that it's helped to position me as more of a brand authority and not just a photographer who talks a little bit about branding. And so people are coming to me, and my clients are coming back to me after the session, sometimes a long time after the session, saying, what do you think about this? And how should I do that? Well, how would you post about this? And then sometimes, booking me again and coming back in because they're doing something new and they want a new suite of images that reflects that new thing that they're doing. So it's kind of been about, I'm starting to become this brand strategist that's at the heart of everything. And then people are coming to me for that, but then also to execute all of the visual side of that, because that's what happens, I think, far too often is you've got people doing the strategy and then they just send, say, go find a photographer to do branding photos. And it's a bit of a crapshoot. Is it going to, align with the brand strategy? Is there any communication at all between the strategist and the photographer? So to have somebody who's both strategist and photographer, who there's no disconnect between this side of the brain and this side of the brain, so that we can create something that will actually amplify the strategy of what we're doing. Or, if somebody's working with a strategist already, I'd love to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, having somebody in your position who can have that can communicate about the strategy and make sure that what we execute is aligned with the strategy I know that's a huge relief for everybody else involved.
Yeah. Because, there are people that come to me that they're already working with a brand strategist, and that's fantastic. And so I say to them, either I would love to have a conversation with the strategist to make sure that the session goes exactly how they're hoping and wanting it to go, or just kind of let me know what they're saying and if they have like a guidelines or, a positioning statement or whatever that they have that they can give me, so that we can go and be super intentional with the session. So again, I think it's kind of a waste of money to just get a suite of random images that they might look decently good, but are they actually supporting the strategy?
Right. Yeah. I mean, what you're describing sounds to me like a dream scenario for a strategist and for the client. And for you, it probably falls in the dream scenario too. If someone has a strategy or is working with a strategist, so they're clear, they can come in and they can tell you, this is what's important to us right now.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To be able to eliminate that disconnect, that seems like a huge void that needs to be filled.
Yeah.
And so it's changed some of what you do. It's changed some of who you work with, right? So how's that shown up in Top Tier? What's different about your business?
So I think it's attracting a new subset of people. I think I was attracting them already for the headshots, but I think especially people that are founders or leaders that are waking up and realizing like a personal brand is not a nice to have anymore. It's increasingly becoming a must have. Just like my friend Nicole says, you would never ask, should I have an email address or should I not have an email address? And that's an irrelevant question in this day and age. And increasingly the question, should I build a personal brand, is going in that same direction. It's not it would be nice, but it's not really necessary. It's more and more becoming a must-have in this digital world that we're living in.
It exists. It may suck, but it exists.
Yeah, it's kind of it exists whether you like it or not. It's more of are you going to be intentional about building it versus just letting it happen haphazardly. So I think it's been increasingly, Top Tier has been attracting that sort of client that sees the work. They see my thought leadership on LinkedIn and they reach out because they're curious. They want to work with somebody who's built a personal brand before. They want to work with a photographer who can help position them in a certain way. So it's all very intentional. So I think it's been increasingly attracting that sort of clientele to the business, which is great. That's I think the clientele that I especially love working with and helping with what I do. But I think that over the past year with these developments, there's also been really the growth of the team as well. And the vision of what could Top Tier Headshots be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. If it keeps going in the direction that it is, it would be pretty impossible to run it as a solopreneur and to stay in that. And I think that the vision is bigger than that anyways. And so really over the last year, we've done a lot of work on starting to build a small team of very, very good people, good at what they do, values aligned with what we're all about at Top Tier, and building a team where I can increasingly, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done on this, but I would say increasingly step back from some of the operations of the business to step into more of a leadership role, more of a visionary role in the business. How do we take the business from point A to point B, doing more of that, and starting to delegate more tasks to people that are still very highly qualified for what they're doing and have proven to be excellent at what they do, but is allowing me to step into more of a leadership role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's pull on that thread.
Yeah.
So we did our transformation case study about the work that I've done with you. And one of the things that we brought to the surface in the last year, a little bit over a year, that you've been able to triple your effective hourly rate, the value of your time. And that's the details of that are in the transformation case study. But what I want to talk to you about first is like, what was it like then? Let's talk about the difference in how life was for you then versus now.
Yeah. So a little over a year after I started my business, we had at the time our biggest month ever. And it was really, quite astounding. And it felt incredible to go from a little over a year earlier having a $50 month total. Well, actually, it was 60 if you include the tip, so.
Which is
it. So $60 month. And then just a little over a year later to have a $50,000 month, approximately. It was a little bit over that. It was mind blowing. I was a complete solopreneur. I did not have a team around me. So I was 100% responsible for, the marketing, the sales, the production of the work, the delivery of the work, everything, the communication, the administrative stuff. There was a lot. the CEO, chief everything officer. Mm-hmm. So what happened in that month was the month finished and it was like big sigh. Let me just take like a day off for a second and just rest, because it was a crazy month. And what happened in that month was a lot of production happening, a lot of sessions with clients. We got flown to another state to do work during that time. So there was the additional, exhaustion of having to travel and, there and back to complete work. And I was exhausted. My brain was going here, there, and everywhere, trying to make sure that everybody got, their deliverables on time. And things started to slip through the cracks. I wasn't getting back to inquiries on the website or LinkedIn as quickly. I wasn't doing my LinkedIn content and marketing really fell off a cliff almost. It wasn't non-existent, but it wasn't nearly what it had been in the months leading up to that. And just other like networking and other just totally fell off a cliff. Mm-hmm. And so we had this incredible month. I was completely exhausted, almost burnt out after that month. And the next 3 months in a row, it wasn't no revenue, but it was crickets comparatively. And it was kind of a bit of a wake up call of what if we have a month like that again, what's it have to look like? What has to change so that the next 3 months don't look like that again? Right. And thankfully, after those 3 months, things had slowed down. So I really threw myself back into those, marketing activities and LinkedIn and stuff like that. And it did bounce back. But it was a bit of a cautionary tale of, wow, this is amazing. Oh, crap. What's, the next 3 months in a row?
It looks fantastic on the surface.
Yeah.
And when you realize it's almost not worth doing.
Yeah.
Despite that.
So that was happening. That was just kind of an example of like awesome month and then chaos and what was happening after that. And I would say the other big thing that was happening or not happening, I should say, was I really didn't have a clear direction of where do we go from here? It was just kind of a solopreneur. Let's grow the revenue as big as we can and hope for the best. There wasn't a clear like pipeline strategy. There wasn't a clear direction of, what's the next step after this. there was I would say a pretty bad shiny object syndrome of, because I didn't know what was next. It was kind of everything that looked shiny was, ooh, maybe that's something we could add into the business, or ooh, that's something we could add in. And a lot of it, I'm looking back thinking, that didn't even make sense. Why would I, try to add that into the business? That's not even related to what we're trying to do. But when you're in the moment and you're consumed by everything and you're just trying to think through, how do I grow? It's kind of the Wild West.
It is. You're right. Yeah. You need to survive.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you live to fight another day, and you're trying to figure out like what works and what doesn't, and what should I do and what shouldn't I do. And there's not really a printed set of rules that anybody's given you that says like red lights and green lights.
Yeah.
You're trying to figure out what those are for yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's something else that is an important part of the conversation as well, is that we were basically starting every month from zero. There was zero monthly recurring revenue happening in the business at all. And, my thinking was, well, somebody comes in for a headshot and then they don't need one again for however long, people would ask me, how long, how soon should I come back in for another one? And I would be like, well, come every month. But no, realistically, maybe they only need one every year, every 2 years, or if you change your appearance, then do it then. But there was a very real sense of, every single month it's hunting time, starting the month of, it's just always hunting mentality of, okay, we had a 50K month. Fantastic. New month happens. We're at zero.
Yep.
Time to go.
And that's typical for a photography business, right?
I would say so. I would say most people, most photographers, especially if, just as an example, like a wedding photographer, that client, you hope for the best. Don't need to come back in again and again for their wedding photos. And so, you're relying a lot on, hunting and marketing and getting the word out there and getting word of mouth from the married couple into other people and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that happens.
So we're starting from zero every month, got no pipeline and no strategy to tell you what to say yes or say no to.
Yeah.
You're just kind of having to use your judgment and on every single thing that comes up. Like there's no filter in place yet.
Yeah.
All right. So then let's talk about kind of moving forward into the difference. Like what's different now? What's happened? Because all of that is different.
Yeah.
Right. So talk to me about that.
Man, where do I start? So I think that a little shameless plug for you, if you don't mind, working with someone to really start to help me think through the strategy behind the growth and not just say, because it was very chaotic previously and there was ideas and things, but again, it was all kind of shiny object syndrome. So working with somebody to really help me zero in on what are we actually trying to do in the business, where are we trying to get to, and what are the next steps that will help us to get there has been invaluable for the business. So, I mean, any person that's out there that started a business, I think especially if you're a solopreneur and you're maybe doing a business for the first time, even if you've had some success, I cannot recommend highly enough working with somebody who has that experience already, who's hopped over the obstacles, fought through the obstacles, knows where the landmines are to help you avoid them, can see the future, and help you really tighten up those goals, and the steps to get there has been just so incredibly invaluable for me personally, and also to help guard against the shiny objects. They're always coming in like, ooh, that would be so easy to make money that way. Yeah. And then the opportunity cost and everything that happens there. So that's, I think, the first thing I would say. And then I think another thing that I would say as well is just in terms of the growth of the business, in terms of revenue, I would say revenue and recurring revenue as well, to get even more specific, is I was really putting a cap on what my clients could spend with me and not really giving them a clear path to, if they want to spend more, they can spend more. They can ascend into bigger things. And there was kind of a, I was pretty good at getting people to move from, just a 1 or 2 headshots into something bigger because I saw their need. It wasn't just a random, used car salesman push you to buy more type of thing, but, seeing their brand that they're building, their bigger need, and creating the variety that gave them the opportunity to invest more in their brand with that. But it was kind of capped at a certain level. There was kind of an entry level offer and a core offer, but there wasn't really a big offer that was available for people who were interested in that sort of thing. And for a long time, there wasn't. And I think there was kind of a mindset issue of, well, nobody wants to spend more than this. Well, who am I? That's such a large assumption. And I think it's a danger that business owners can face is, we can make assumptions about things that couldn't be the furthest from the truth, but maybe because of our past experience or, the way that we grew up, whatever the case may be, we limit ourselves to what we can do, to what our clients could spend, and just really cap our revenue instead of just allowing it to grow. If somebody wants to spend more, give them the opportunity to spend more.
It's not about them wanting to spend money. It's about what's the problem they want you to solve.
Exactly.
And you're great at that.
Exactly. Is there a bigger problem here that can be solved? So I think that's a huge thing. And then part of that as well was the assumption in my head of recurring revenue is not really possible in this type of business. And then I started to wonder, is it? But I started to architect it, try to figure it out. And it just never really felt like it was the right thing. And the thing that I think fixed it was just listening to my clients and what they're looking for and what their needs are. And then realizing, oh, I think this would work. And so just recently, it kind of organically came up in conversation with one of my clients that's come back in multiple times for their own headshots. I've done the headshots for their firm. I've done branding images for them specifically. We've developed a great relationship, and we're just randomly talking. And she said something about this video company that they've got on retainer. And she jokingly said, maybe I should put you on retainer. And I said, well, actually, I was working on coming up with something. And she said, oh, okay, send me the details and we'll talk about it. And they just signed. And really, that's actually the second one. There was somebody before that. So it just opened my eyes to, again, it's not about forcing something, in that doesn't fit. It's about listening to what your clients are wanting and needing to solve their problems and designing something that excellently solves that problem. So it was really about me overcoming that assumption in my mind of, oh, you can't really do recurring revenue in this sort of business. But again, that just assumption.
Right.
If there are clients that have that problem, my job is not to convince somebody that they need to buy this package. It's to simply listen to what their problems are and present to them an offer that solves that problem.
Yep.
So,
and from my perspective, the big difference, the big change in you that's opened that up is it's only how you think about things, right? You've shifted the way that you think about that situation in particular, but a lot of things, whether it's how you view your production versus having someone else be the producer. And that's changed the way that you are building your team, the positioning for the business, yourself as a leader. That's one in particular. Let's talk about how you've changed your perspective on you as a leader from that before and after period.
For the first several years of my business, I didn't really view myself as a leader, to be honest. I guess, okay, started this company, so kind of the de facto leader there, but wasn't really viewing myself in that way. I think I was viewing myself more as a producer and a service provider. And didn't really view myself in a leadership capacity. So when we first started working together and you were really pushing me to start thinking about a lot of these leadership things. And there was something in the back of my mind that was thinking, do I really need this? And I think it was just a mindset of, I wasn't viewing my business in that way. I was kind of stuck in producer mode and stuck in thinking, I just need to figure out better ways to produce, better ways to market myself. And then the business will grow that way. And there was really I think a vacuum created by not viewing myself as a leader in the business. And that started to show up in a not so good way when we started looking at building a team and we started looking at who was going to be on the team, and kind of I would say unintentional, not handing the reins over, but let's say sharing the reins with a person or people that hadn't earned the reins. And I was too quick to basically say, okay, yeah, sure, that's a good idea, without really evaluating it myself as the leader of the business. And so that was one of the ways that I think that lack of viewing myself as a leader really started to show up in Top Tier.
It's like vibe partnering.
Yeah. That started to show up. There were some setbacks. There were some, I would say, negative consequences of me not acting like the leader that I was. I was the founder of the company. I am the leader of the company, and I wasn't really acting like it.
Not in a negative way outwardly, just there was a void.
There was a void, yeah. Yeah. I don't think it was you're like a really harsh, critical leader.
Right.
It was more of just, I was not really acting as a leader, period. And the void. And so that started to have some negative impacts. I think the direction of the business got blurred for a number of months as a result. And it required some difficult decisions and some pretty strategic refocusing to get things back on track.
So let's talk about that then. That being the example that you moved away from, that was when you were not being the leader that you feel like you need to be. What about now? How do you see yourself as a leader now?
There's an aspect of that in terms of decision making that happens, and that might just be something that affects me and the business. It also might be something that affects the team that we've put together as well. And then the interactions with the team. So there's that sort of impact. There's the impact of, what if we have to, essentially terminate a team member for various reasons. And then I think it also shows up in the way that I lead my clients as well. A lot of times, yeah, there's people that come in that still just say, I just want a great headshot, and can you do that for me? And but there's a lot of times there's clients that come in that really want my leadership in terms of like the brand strategy or my ideas or things like that. And so they're kind of looking to me as a leader and an authority in that sort of way as well. It impacts every area of the business. It's not just a kind of silo. The leadership happens here, and then there's marketing over here, and there's sales over here. It's kind of the thing at the top that trickles down everything. It was a gaping void that needed to be filled. I think the busier the business got, the more that void impacted everything.
Yeah. You were feeling that ceiling. You'd reached that ceiling. We talked about the hamster wheel. You could repeat that little period of time like you described, where the one big month followed by several that were, you kind of paid for it. The best you were going to do was repeat that.
Yeah.
Which it really wasn't. You didn't want to repeat it. That was no way forward. Now we figured out how to unlock things where you're able to, you have more leverage. You can do much more than that in a period of time. In a lot of directions, not necessarily just revenue. And it doesn't come at such a cost to you. So now you've built a machine that or are building the machine that's going to help take you to that vision that you've gotten clearer on.
Mm-hmm.
And so the machine itself is part of the work that's been done, that's been created, but also like opening up the way that you think about things so you're able to pilot that machine well.
Yeah.
Whenever I made the comment about the handcuffs,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you do you remember what the story was?
I don't remember exactly what we were talking about. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was something related to sales calls and me responding to every inquiry that came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to make an argument for maybe I should go back to doing that. We had tried it with my assistant, kind of fielding the inquiry and qualifying, and then me taking the calls that were serious. And she was setting that up. We had a month where there was a little bit of a dip in revenue, and I was trying to make the argument maybe I should go back to fielding all of those calls and just see how that impacts things. And your exact quote was, "Would you like me to sign those handcuffs for you?" which made me stop in my tracks. And I was like, okay, point well taken. And I'll never forget that quote. That probably should be a LinkedIn post because it's such a it'll catch people's attention. What we found now is that the people who are really serious that want to work with me, that we've done the work positioning ourselves to attract those sort of people, they will absolutely take a call from my assistant and then get booked on a call with me. And it's weeding out a lot of the people that they're just price shopping and they just want to get a price and go on their way and aren't really that interested in what I do specifically. So it's saving so much time on a monthly basis where I still get on calls with people, but typically it's people that have already been qualified, that they're really interested in working with me and what I do, and not just people looking for a cheap headshot or the cheapest price on a headshot or something like that. I'll work with anybody that's willing to invest in their image, but I think we've built a business where a headshot is not just a throwaway item. It's an investment into your brand. So we're not going to be the cheapest person out there, and we're totally okay with that. You know, for me to get on the phone with somebody that wants a $50 headshot, I'm never going to convince them to pay my price because their value is capped at 50 or whatever it is. So, it's just it's something that has really month over month saved me so much time and allowed me to focus on the clients that do actually want to invest and are serious about building their brand.
Part of the reason why I really like that story is because I think it's a fantastic example. It gives us a really good gauge of how far you've come with your recognition of your role, especially as it relates to the production, because that would have, like, taking those calls would have been the hardest thing to pry you away from before, right? And now we've gotten to a place where we still need the occasional reminder, like we all do.
Yeah.
And so, but that comment was all that it took. And you're like, oh yeah, because now you're aware of it. Yeah. You work on it intentionally, and your beliefs have shifted to where we're not just saying it's important that you be the leader first. You believe that you need to be the leader first, and you can still add value through production, but we're going to be intentional about when that happens.
Yeah. And I think that it has really sharpened the decision making when it's come to the potential shiny objects, things, opportunities that come in. And before it was, wow, getting pulled every different direction because there were so many good ideas, versus now able to see an opportunity, evaluate it based on what our goals are and what our priorities are in a given quarter, and quickly say, nope, put that away. It's a distraction. Or maybe we can discuss it in the next quarterly thing, but right now it's a distraction from the current goals that we have, the current priorities. So I think just the work that we've done has really helped to sharpen those things, because as you've said a million times, if you start focusing on that distraction, what happens to the work? Opportunity cost starts to suffer. You taking backward steps instead of forward steps with what you're trying to do, and spreading yourself too thin, stuff like that.
Everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else.
Yep.
I mean, it's real, and it's only like that's only going to continue. The opportunities, if this goes well, best case scenario, you're going to actually get more of the best opportunities. So discernment is going to become more and more of a thing.
Yeah.
That will be the skill that we're sharpening at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about this in terms like we're playing the long game.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is to make it. Daniel's the guy that people want to work with. So there are going to be more people coming and wanting more and more of Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only so much of Daniel to go around. You've done well with it. It's not going to go away. You're going to keep getting better at it.
Yeah.
So considering everything that you've learned in your growth, what would you tell somebody, another founder who is where you were, say, a year ago?
Number one, you need to talk to Nick. You follow Nick.
I don't disagree, but I did not tell him to say that.
Yeah, I was not getting paid for this promotion. Seriously though, go follow Nick on LinkedIn, and just a lot of his posts are adding a ton of wisdom. Take advantage of the wisdom that he shares. What is it that you post on LinkedIn that's like I can't remember what it's called now. It's like a blueprint or it's an audit or something.
So there's the 5 stages of the business owner journey. So you get the 90-day roadmap that you can get, or there's the 5 ceilings assessment.
Yeah. So just, for people to take advantage of things like that you offer to your network and just add a lot of value and a lot of, I think, reveal a lot about your own business and what's happening and where the shortcomings are and where you need to grow and, as a leader of a company, and not just be continually viewing yourself as the producer that's just going to make everything happen, especially if you're trying to build something more than just a lifestyle business, which we are. So I think that's the first thing that I would say. Another thing that I would say is you need to treat your personal brand as a must-have, not a nice-to-have. Because, as Nick said, it's happening anyways, whether you like it or not. And so the question is really not do I want it or do I not want it? Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? It's more of are you going to be intentional about it or just let it happen haphazardly? Mm-hmm. So I think that the people that are forward thinking in terms of their business and the market and the direction that things are going in the digital world, people are getting really serious about how do I build this personal brand intentionally instead of just letting it happen for me haphazardly. So that's another thing that I would say. And then I would also say, surround yourself with other growth-minded entrepreneurs. If you surround yourself with people that are always complaining about the way that things are, or who are just very satisfied to just coast and don't really care very much about their personal growth, their professional development, and really trying to take things to the next level professionally, that tends to rub off on people. It has an effect.
Absolutely.
And I think every wise guru out there talks about, who's the person who talks about like you're the average of the 5 people that you hang out with or you spend your time with. I hear it all the time, but it's definitely something that if you surround yourself with people that hold you back, they're going to hold you back. Mm-hmm. And so surrounding yourself, finding a group of people that will really push you to the next level is vital.
Yep. Agreed. All right. So what does the future look like for Top Tier and for you?
World domination.
Exactly.
So, because of the brand, the personal brand, because we've been building it in public on LinkedIn, it's getting an increasingly national presence. We've got followers from all over the world, the US mostly, but followers from all over the world. It's not uncommon now to have people fly in to Fort Lauderdale to do a session with me, or occasionally have a team that flies me out to them to work with them with headshots or video or personal branding type images. So I think that 5-10 years from now, we've grown the team. Still want it to be a very white glove service. So committed to anybody that's part of the team really being trained at the highest level for the headshots, for any images, for any video that we do for our clients. You know, the direction that we've talked about of really diving into the personal brand strategy, that's going to continue. And that, I think, is going to get deeper. And there's going to be a standalone offer of personal brand consulting that people can hire me for. And that's going to be something that is also included in what I'm calling my visionary sessions, which we've really rolled out this past quarter, which are a much bigger offer than anything that we've offered before. And it's really designed for the executive, the speaker, the author that's really going all in on their personal brand and doesn't just want like a couple of images, but really wants to build a portfolio that really helps position them as the go-to expert in their industry. And so anybody that signs up for one of those visionary sessions with the lower couple of tiers, there will be a short brand strategy call to just make sure we're aligned before we kick off and actually do the work in the sessions. But the largest tier of the visionary session will include a half-day brand strategy intensive where we basically turn the phones off and get to work on what does your brand actually look like? Where is it going? Who is it for? What is it offering? All of the things that will really just sharpen what these people need to do, who they're for, what they offer, why they offer it. All of the things that, you know, and I talk to people that already, you know, they've got a business, they're getting clients, but there's a little bit of confusion still. Maybe they're not growing as quickly as they could. And when we dive into some of this branding and positioning stuff, there's a lack of clarity. Usually, I would say of like 4 or 5 main points that we cover, there's confusion on at least 2 or 3 of them, and it's clouding up the whole thing. And so that's going to be a big direction for Top Tier, is really diving into that strategy and then incorporating it into the studio sessions and beyond. And some of the stuff that we're going to be offering for the visionary sessions, we're really excited about. I'm talking, you know, keynote coverage of your speaking event anywhere in the US, speaker reels, and what I'm calling keynote trailers to help you get more paid speaking engagements, and get hired for those and get noticed for those. And behind the scenes photography of what we do that just gives people a whole suite of social content that they can use to just show what it's like working with them, and, you know, all of the cool behind the scenes stuff that happens there that people get curious about. And it just adds more value to what you're doing.
And you're solving the problem that we were talking about earlier, that you didn't have the thing that solved that problem. You were thinking about it in terms of like ticket size. Now you understand what your audience needs. And so you already have some clients that you're working with that are in that space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really awesome to see some of the results that have been happening. So for example, and we can do some of this with the lower tier, like the designer session as well. But for example, my signature keynote portraits that I developed that we do right here in my studio, because every single speaker client that I've worked with has told me I can't get a good shot of myself while I'm speaking. So that was kind of the first, is that a problem I can solve? That is clearly being a cry for help from my clients. So we worked on solving it. People are loving it. And I had the idea recently of, why don't we start putting some of those images in a LinkedIn banner for my clients. So they've got a headshot in their profile picture and then a speaking image in their banner. And you've got something a little different there, but it's something that starts to showcase you in action, what you would look like on stage, things like that. One of my clients recently did the speaking shot, put it in their banner. A week later, got a paid speaking engagement. And it was from somebody who previously had said no. Put the image, they said yes. I mean,
do the math.
And you know, I don't want to just like pat myself on the back, but the guy himself, my client, said it is because now he was doing the work, he was reaching out, he was applying for these things, but he said that the only difference was the speaker image in the banner, positioning him as the speaker that he already is, but it opened the door for that opportunity. So that's the sort of thing we want to help people with, is to give them the brand foundation assets and all of the marketing and social media content that helps to position them for success and that opens doors of opportunities for them.
And you're doing it. I mean, I think I've said before, I think your work is so impactful beyond what I would have understood before, because you can change the way that people think about themselves, right? So for some people, that's very important. They need to change the way that they think about themselves. For other people, maybe they just need images that are on par with how they think about themselves. But that's the thing that I found with you that I'd not ever seen before, that I think, you need to be responsible with that. That can be dangerous.
I know.
But it's just like the impact that can have on people. You don't have to be in the market for headshots. It's not about headshots.
Yeah.
I would imagine the person who you just mentioned, who the opportunity came up after you put the speaking image in their LinkedIn header, even before that instance happened, those images probably have affected how he perceived himself, and for the better.
Yeah. I've started to summarize it this way because a lot of times, especially with people that maybe they didn't know me as well when they booked a session, what I've found is people, they come in for a headshot and they leave with a new vision for themselves. And man, if they get that, like, they can go and conquer the world. And I've seen, you're right, some people come in, they're already a very confident person, and it gives them an aligned photo that helps people see who they already are on the inside. And then there's other people that come in that they have big dreams, big goals, big plans, but there's something inside of them that says, I don't know if I can get there. I don't know if I have what it takes to get there. And there's something about seeing yourself looking more confident than you ever seen yourself look on a laptop screen, staring back at you, that something inside starts to say, maybe I can do this. And that shifts everything.
Yeah, it really does. It's one of the most powerful things for someone who's getting into trying to establish their personal brand. That moment is one of the key moments in that journey. Like, everything is different after that. So Daniel, I'm proud of you. You're doing a fantastic job. I appreciate everything. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Speaking of like the power of having a vision, like, you're a testament to that. So I'm excited to see where you take things moving forward.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want more on personal branding, check out my episode with Joe Gannon. Joe runs an agency called Amplify, and he's built personal brands for people like Ali Abdaal, Chris Williamson, and Sahil Bloom. He shares his strategy framework, why he thinks ghostwriting is dead, and how AI is separating the real creators from the noise. You can find my writing on the stages of the business owner's journey, the 5 ceilings of expertise businesses, and my parallel process at nickberry.info. Have a great week.